All right, the Quick Junk and Dirty series is back, and today we're talking about amp pairings, and we're also going to talk about some of the plethora of headphones I got going on here. But really, we're about to talk about amp pairings. This is the Ferrum OOR with Hypsos, and this is the Topping A90. And the DAC I'm using is just my Chord Mojo 2. I find that it works really well, and A being quite a few DACs, I've yet to find too much of a difference with DACs. I'm going to get deeper into it after I settle the headphone and the amp combo. So what we're talking about today is the importance of pairing with amps. It is so important. I didn't realize the difference it could make. So I would describe the Topping A90 as neutral with just a touch of warmth. I mean, I'm talking like a Salt Bay sprinkle of warmth, but it's basically neutral and analytical in a good way. It increases intimacy and brings everything to the forefront, which pairs really well with things. And it's $500. Great value with how much power and performance you're getting. The Ferrum OOR, after taxes and everything, is $3,400. It's very expensive. And for some things, it works great. In other things, it's not. I would describe the Ferrum OOR as it lies to you a little. It's like a lover who strays a tad bit on the side. But sometimes the lies are what you need. I find that it adds a little bit of body and warmth to everything that you put into it. But some headphones, that's not what you want to put into it. So it really is just about the pairing. For example, these are the new Aria Stealth V2s. And they're great. They are 85% of the Sesfaras as far as timbre accuracy, and I would describe them as neutral bright. And when you put them through the Ferrum, it adds the body and the warmth and a little. The Ferrum does this to the mid-range. It just goes just a little bit. It just dips the mid-range just a smidge. I find that when I'm using the 5-band EQ of the Mojo, I gotta tap up the mid-range just a touch more through the Ferrum than I do the A90. But that works well with this headphone. And this headphone is a little bit more diffuse and lean than like the Odyssey LCD2 revision 2.2 or the LCD-X or the LCD2C. Like, this lacks a little body, but when you put it through this, it's like endgame. I mean, it's incredible. If you value timbre and accuracy above sounding huge, these through that are fantastic. But through that, to me, they're a little too analytical. They're a little too bright. They lean bright and lean, and it's not a good pairing. But yeah, if you want 80% of the Sesfara, also, I gotta say, these and the HE1000 V2s are the absolute bass slam kings. And I have a theory as to why. And I mean, I got the Abyss right there. So, but everyone says is the best bass. But no, this for kinetic, plosive, powerful energy trumps that. And I'll tell you why. The cup shape, this part of the cup right here, touches your lower jaw. And that is what is informing the kinetic impact of the bass with these. Because these, I swear to God, these and maybe even a little bit more, the HU1000 V2s, I had to return them. It was past my 30 days. They slammed the hardest of any headphones I've ever heard if you throw on a bass shelf with the Mojo 2. If you up the bass and sub-bass region, I mean, they just slam so hard. And it's because of the shape of this cup. So, I mean, these are fantastic through the right amp. But I would, if you're going to get these, I would suggest a warmer, body heavy amp for these. The Sesvaras, I actually don't like as much through the Hypsos because, in the Ferrum, it's Ferrum and Hypsos, whatever, because these are already neutral and they lean a slight bit warm. And I think these would perform best with a more neutral amp that doesn't, whatever the soul they're saying that is in the Ferrum, basically it just scoops the mid-range just a touch and adds body and warmth to everything compared to reference A90. Now, I will say this too about the Ferrum. The Ferrum adds a lot of bass energy and bass tightness as well. Like comparing that to that, the bass is a little bit loose and sloppy. And the bass through here is just tight and precise and has more energy and control. But I mean, we're talking $500 to $3,400 here. It's a huge difference. And I think that if you're going to go Sesvara, it's better to go with something neutral and clean because it leans warm. And that's what I was finding through all these headphones that lean warm. This leans very warm. This leans slightly warm. That leans extremely dark and warm. And the LCD4 as well leans super warm and V-shaped. And those headphones don't work well with that amp. They sound better through that, to me, in timbre and tonality. Whereas the headphones that lean, those three, they work much better with that. So it's about pairing the right thing with the right thing. You know, it's like you got to have the right fit. You know, if you got a small dick, you need a small vagina. You got a big floppy pussy, you need a monster dick. The onus isn't on any one component to fill the need. It's about the right pairing. And if you have a leaner sounding HD800S, Aria, whatever headphone, pair it with something warm that adds body. If you have something that already leans warm, these, by the way, fucking rocked my world. The Rev 2.2s, these sound absolutely massive. Massive sound. And if you bump up the mid-range with EQ, I mean, these are swinging so hard above their weight. I swear to God, if you can find these for $650, $700, it might be the best bang for buck headphone of all time. Because it just sounds massive. Like you listen to the Top Gun intro, you know, the bong, you know the fucking intro. You've seen that movie. These just sound huge. Huge. These are listening to music in the fifth row of a cathedral when you're hammered. Everything sounds huge and a little bit distant and reverby and just, chef's kiss. Mwah. Beautiful if you add some EQ to the mid-range. If not, it's a little bit too V-shaped for me. But it's still fantastic. If you don't want to use any EQ at all and you just want the intimacy kings, this is it. I've yet to find a headphone that is as intimate and as accurate with the staging as the LCDX. It just gives you every little detail. It just shoots detail into your ear like, here's where this is coming from in the right ear. Here's where this is coming from in the left ear. It's left and behind you versus right in front of you. And it just brings everything to the front. better than anything I've ever heard, period. Honestly, I would skip these. They're okay, they're just very dark. And if you could find a Rev 2.2, they're so much better than these for the same price. But I mean, it's hard to find them on the used market. The Abyss 1266 are the absolute detail kings, and what they achieved that the LCD5 couldn't. And I talked about the LCD5 in the last review. The LCD5 doesn't sound good. When you listen to it, it's shouty and harsh, and it's not fun at all to hear. Whereas this gives you all the detail goodness of the LCD5 while also sounding really good. It never sounds so harsh that it's unlistenable. But to me, still, it's a little too metallic and a little too dimensional for my taste. I prefer the wow factor of size. And for me, that is achieved by the LCD lines. All the three of these headphones sound huge when you plug them into things. They don't do things others well. If you're obsessed with timbre and you just want the most organic sounding things on the planet, it's these guys. The Hi-Fi Man line sounds organic, natural, real, but I mean, and I've already ordered an AHB2 for the Susvaras to see if I can make them sound bigger and more live and more dynamic, which I've heard they could. They still already sound pretty great out of these two amps right here. The A90 isn't quite enough to get it to blaringly loud levels, but it's still really good. And if you are obsessed with timbre and you want the most organic, natural sounding things on the planet, these are your babies. You either go for these. And honestly, these are like 85% of the way there. These are like electrostatic type speed and accuracy and timbre. And if you have the money, fucking great. Go for these. But if you don't, just get these with a warm, heavy body sounding amp and you're so close already. And in some ways you beat it. You have bigger, fatter bass slam with these than you do with those. I mean, shit, I was surprised. Though the bass is tighter and more accurate over there and right here, for kinetic energy and impact and slam, these are the fucking Mac Daddies with HE1000 V2. They're both just outstanding. Outstanding. And it's, like I said earlier, the cup shape. But the LCD4s, man, they sound the best through the A90s. But it's because they're somehow dark and bright and detailed at the same time. They're confusing. They just have a little bit of a muffled sound to them. Whereas these are like dark, warm, and sensuous, but also detailed in a less muffled way. And they just sound huge and they're cheap relatively in this world. And they're great value and that's all going for them. These are expensive, and I think if you're going to go that expensive, you go for the more crazy detail monsters than those. You know, unless you're just solely listening to EDM and hip hop, then maybe you consider these. These have more air and space and breath to them than these do. These are more thick and huge. These are more airy and huge and intimate. So it's about what you want. And like I said, I find all the LCD line to sound better through something more neutral like the A90. And I find all the Hi-Fi Men in Abyss line to sound better through something with more body and warmth and a little bit of scoop to the mid-range. So I think that's all I have to give you. I mean, this has been a great little hobby of mine, and I make these videos because I know that not everyone can afford or is lucky enough to be able to put $40,000 worth of audio equipment on their credit card in 1 month. You know, some people have wives, some people have higher powers they have to answer to. I am lucky enough and unlucky enough that I don't. So I'm trying to pass on a little knowledge so that you don't have to go through the hassle of buying every headphone on the planet and returning them within the month. Or in some ways, like the HB2, I couldn't even find for return, so I'm just going to buy it. But anyway, I hope you got something from this. Maybe I'll take more time and go into more detail about more of the headphones that I listen to and what I heard from them. But until then, thank you for listening. Reddit community, I love you. YouTube community, I love you. Peace out.